Hello, all. Welcome to my living room from where I watched Rutgers basketball play its most competitive road game of the year, falling 68-62 to Iowa in Iowa City. We'll break down that game, what it means. Is Rutgers getting better? Is it the situation of the game? We'll get into all of that, who stood out. First, whoever's watching this, I saw some comments in before we started streaming. Appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know you can hear me. Let me know you're watching. Throw in any questions, any commentary you have. I appreciate all of you for tuning in because it's 10:45 on a work day, and I'm assuming a lot of you have to be up early tomorrow morning. So, but I think it was a good enough game that I think people, you could take it either way, right? You could look at this as Rutgers showing some more life and not losing a game on the road immediately in the first half, the way it did in Michigan, at Seton Hall, at Tennessee, in Vegas against Tennessee, at Wisconsin. Or you could look at it as a game where Rutgers had a chance to win a Big Ten road game for the first time this year. They were within single digits for most of the second half. Actually, the entire game. They were never down double digits, and they were within 2 possessions for most of the second half, and they just couldn't pull through. So it depends on if you're a half glass full or glass half empty kind of person. But essentially, this game, I think, was close because this was the kind of game where Steve Pikiell thrives. Iowa is a low possession team. They have one of the lowest tempos in the country. That showed itself today. There were 62 possessions in this game. That's the lowest Rutgers played this year, tied with the Ohio State game. So the variance is lower. Iowa wasn't exactly an explosive offense today. And Rutgers was able to pace because of that. Now, it was also a Steve Pikiell game in the sense that it was low scoring, low possession, and it was kind of ugly. Both teams combined for 31 turnovers and 38 fouls. And on the Rutgers end, that was one of the real costly parts of this game. They had 19 turnovers on 63 possessions. That's 30.2% of their possessions. Every third possession, they were giving the ball away. Most of that was in the first half. They had 12 turnovers on 28 possessions. But even down the stretch, there were some bad plays, some ugly turnovers. And I want to start down the stretch because I think that is what showed the difference between Iowa and Rutgers. And you could substitute Iowa with any good Big Ten team, really, because the game, again, it's tight. It's within 2 possessions. It can go either way. Iowa needed baskets. They went to Bennett Sturtz, who is, if not the best, well, he's not the best point guard in the Big Ten because Braden Smith is in the Big Ten. He's one of the best guards in the Big Ten. They put the ball in his hand. He got to the rim. He finished. He found open teammates. He competed. He carried Iowa on his back after struggling for a lot of the game. Credit to Rutgers for defending him pretty well. He had 20 points on 21 shots. That's pretty good. That's pretty good for a guy that caliber, and he had 5 assists. But the points he got and a couple of the assists he got came in crunch time. In the second half, he shot 5 of 12. He hit in the final 3.5 minutes, he had a jumper, an assist, a 3-point play, and that was a big part of it. And he got his and one with 142 left to put his team up 6. And Rutgers was unable to bounce back from there. And then on the other end, Rutgers needs to score, and they put the ball in their best offensive player's hands, Tariq Francis, and he's unable to create. Some of that is because, yes, he does not have as many good shooters as Iowa does, but the offensive creativity really isn't there. He's forced to kind of just dribble his way into the inside the arc, create for himself, and he's just not able to carry Rutgers against the team that was well coached, did not bite much on Rutgers' offensive fakes. Tariq Francis did get to the line 6 times. He went 5 of 6. Rutgers did go to the free throw line against Iowa. They had 24 free throw attempts. Iowa only had 16. But I think ultimately my point here is that Iowa had Bennett Sturtz and better role players, and Rutgers did not. I will say, though, Tariq Francis had a decent game, 15 points on 4 of 12 shooting. Again, I thought a lot of the shots were were forced, and some went in, some didn't. But he was the second leading scorer for Rutgers. Darren Buchanan, I thought, was the best player offensively for Rutgers. 17 points, 5 of 8 shooting, 6 of 7 on free throws, and much of that was in the second half where he went 12. He scored 12 points, 3 of 4 field goals, 6 of 7 from the free throw line, with 2 rebounds and a block. Was really aggressive getting to the rim. Rutgers shot 2 shots at the rim in the first half. Two layups, all in the last 3 minutes. Went 1 of 2. Much more aggressive in the second half. They shot, let's get the numbers up here. In the second half, they went 7 of 9 on layups. So they got to the rim much more often. And part of that was Darren Buchanan. He was aggressive, hit some tough shots at the baseline, hit a 3, got to the free throw line, went 6 of 7, as I said. I think he should shoot more threes, frankly, because he is now, after tonight, at sorry, I don't have these numbers, 47.4%, only on 19 attempts, but I just don't think I subscribe to the Mark Titus theory. You shouldn't have a guy on your team shooting 47% of threes, because that means he's not shooting enough threes. Keep feeding him the ball, keep creating threes for him. And same with Jermichael Davis, 37.7% on threes. And tonight he took 2 threes. I mean, they're not taking enough threes as a team, obviously, but they're also not taking enough threes, giving the players that can show them they can make the threes enough opportunities to make the threes. Way too many mid-range jumpers, not to beat a dead horse there. But again, I thought Darren Buchanan had one of his better games after a bit of a hiccup at Wisconsin, has continued the development he's shown over the last month. Positive sign for Rutgers. And then the last player I want to note for, I guess 2 more players I want to throw out there had a positive performance. Emmanuel Bole, I thought, gave about a 99 percentile Emmanuel Bole, like what you want out of Emmanuel Bole. 8 points, 3 of 3 shooting, 2 of 4 on free throws, and just the perfect encapsulation of the Emmanuel Bole free throw experience. He has 4 free throws in the last couple minutes in both trips. The first one misses horribly, and the second one just swishes. Just an anomaly. But he has 8 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks. And when Rutgers was making things hard for Iowa to score inside the paint, close to the basket in the second half, they packed the paint. Manny's size really made it hard for them. Manny came in with pretty good numbers. He was the 4th highest offensive rebounding rate in the country. He had the 67th highest block rate in the country. And I thought a couple of those things, showed themselves tonight. I thought he had one of his better performances as a Scarlet Knight. And then Dylan Grant did not do much in the first half. Didn't record a stat in the first half in 4 minutes. I didn't even know he played in the first half when he checked into the second half to show how much of an impact he had. But in the second half, 6 points on 3 of 4 shooting, 3 of 3 on twos, 3 rebounds, and was in the mix there. He did commit 3 fouls, but he was being physical, and his last shot, a jumper with 5:47 to go, kept Rutgers in pace with Iowa. I thought he had a positive game and maybe a sign that he's kind of overcoming the flu he's been dealing with over the past couple of weeks. Let's go down to the comments now. Akiri threw in a comment before we started. Great effort tonight. Team is definitely improving each game, honestly. I think that's a fair assessment from this game. That's, again, the glass half full view. If you take the last 3 halves of basketball between the second half of the Wisconsin game and you scrape the context out of that Rutgers entered that down 26 points, or was at one point down 26 points, and then you add it to this Iowa performance, I think there are reasons to be positive. And Rutgers hosts an Indiana team that is very volatile on Friday. They take let me get these numbers up real quick. They lost tonight to Michigan by 14 on the road. No shame in that. They take 50.8% of their shots from 3. That's 11th nationally. They're very feast or famine. They shoot 35.4% on threes, which is 96th nationally. So they take a lot of threes. Sometimes they go in, but when they don't go in, they can have some really ugly games. And that's why they lost to Iowa. When these 2 teams played, Indiana, Iowa won by 17 points, and Indiana shot 6 of 24 on threes. That's what Rutgers is going to need to have a chance to win a game at the rack against Indiana. Rutgers has shown they're better at the rack than they are on the road, clearly. They are now 0-4 on the road in the Big Ten, 1-7 overall in games played away from the rack. They beat UNLV in a quasi-home game, if you want to call it. There were 50 people in the arena, but it was clearly closer to UNLV than it was to Rutgers. So fair play there. Thank you guys for letting me know the sound was good. Gamers for Life, throwing out some soccer references. Michael Carrick had a good start with the win over Manchester City. I'll remind you that Ruben Amorim also had a win over Manchester City in one of his first games with United. So let's not get carried away. Winnable game, Frank R says, yes, I agree. That was the most winnable road game Rutgers has played. Again, a true road game, I should say. And I think that's why it hurts. It's not. You need to take these opportunities when they're there, right? I don't know how many more of these Rutgers is going to get. There'll be a couple of them, but when you're right there and you're not able to get over the hump against the first-year coach in the Big Ten, in such a slow pace, got to take advantage. Luis Suarez, 2 big goals today against PSG, big win for Sporting. Not going to talk about that on the stream because people don't care at 10:55 on a Tuesday. J-Max says, tough one. Lino's a scrapper, but he giveth and taketh away. He draws the offensive foul. He goes and commits the same foul. Funny sequence there. I think High Knees wanted to give up a makeup call because I do think that Lino, the foul is acceptable, but he did embellish it a bit. And I thought it was a good call in the other way because if you follow the same criteria, I think both were fouls. I think that the foul on Lino starts being a little craftier than Lino, veteran guy against the freshman. Lino, again, he's one of the few guys on this roster that can attack the rim, but he's just not able to finish at the rim. He had a nice play defensively, 1-on-2, got a block in transition, but he finished. His line was 7 points on 2 of 5 shooting, 0 of 2 on threes, 3 of 3 on free throws. Lino Mark on the season is shooting. I just looked up the numbers. 0 of 16 on threes. When you can't make a 3, it limits what you can do. And as athletic as you are driving to the rim, if the opposing defenses don't respect you from threes, they can really sag off you. And that's what happens with Lino Mark. He's driving to the rim against the prepared defender, and it's hard for him to finish at the rim with layups. Again, Rutgers shot 8 of 11 on layups today, which is not bad. You'd like a little bit more than 11 layups, but the ones they took, they made them for the most part. Alec. So I just noticed the Hawkeye in the background. Have I been missing an elaborate bit where you have the opposing mascot in the background of each game, or just a coincidence? Just a coincidence. I've tried to get a plushie or mascot of every team I travel to for football. That's Iowa from last year. I have a Washington Husky up there at somewhere. I have a signed 21-22, I think, Rutgers basketball up there. And I have a USC Trojan away from the frame. So that's my little office over here. And I have a Rutgers football Adidas vintage somewhere in the bookshelf as well. Thank you for noticing, Alec. Very observant of you. Frank R says other teams' best players play the majority of minutes and take the majority of shots. I would be interested to look into this theory because, Rutgers certainly does. Tariq Francis takes 31% of Rutgers shots when he's on the floor. That is 57th nationally. Very high usage player as a shooter. Let's look at the Big Ten. So Tariq Francis has the second highest shooting percentage, as in shooting rate. He takes the second highest rate of shots for his team when he's on the floor in the Big Ten. Nick Boyd of Wisconsin is beating him by 1%, by 0.1%, 31.1%. Nick Boyd is shooting 31.3% on threes and 56.4% on twos. Tariq Francis is shooting 32.5% on threes and exactly 50% on twos. Nick Boyd does get to the free throw line a little bit more. He has 115, and Tariq Francis has 88. So point taken. I do think it's clear that Tariq Francis takes a much higher percentage of his team shots than the rest of the league. Let's go. What's next? Having an update on by fall. I do not have one. He did not play today. He was ruled as out. Frankly, I'm not sure there's much of a hurry to get him back. Frank says Rutgers, everyone plays the same amount of minutes. Sorry, Frank, I did not realize this was the same thought in 2 different comments. Rutgers, everyone plays the same amount of minutes. Wonder why no one is in flow or somewhat out of sync. I've always thought the substitution pattern conversation was a bit overrated. It's not an exact science. I understand the point. I guess the counterpoint here would be, does Rutgers have 5 guys or 3 guys who deserve to play 30 minutes a night? Darren Buchanan played 30 minutes tonight. I think if you have a list of 3 guys, he's on there. but you don't have a center that you particularly feel confident in. May play 27 minutes tonight. He might play 10 minutes against the Indiana, which is much more perimeter oriented. I mean, Tariq Francis should be a 30-minute guy. He only played 24 minutes because he was in foul trouble, but he's pretty much, one of your 1, 2, or 3 offensive options, right? Like he is your number one guy as far as creating offense on his own. Ryan Forbes says Rutgers showed photos of their team bonding. They were in Iowa City for 3 days, so they spent time together. Indiana preview. Again, they're a team that's very perimeter oriented. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. They're not playing as well as I personally thought they would, to be honest with you. They are currently 12-7 overall, 3-5 in the Big Ten, riding a 4-game losing streak. In fairness, they played at Nebraska, which is the number one, the hottest team in the Big Ten. They hosted Nebraska. They went at Michigan State. They hosted Iowa and went at Michigan. When they played a team of Rutgers caliber, they played at Maryland a couple weeks ago, and they won 84-66 by 18 points. So will not be an easy opportunity for Rutgers, but if you look at the home games they have left, Indiana, Michigan State, Nebraska, Maryland, Washington, and Penn State, I would argue Indiana is the fourth most winnable game behind obviously Maryland and Penn State, and maybe Washington. Probably Washington is a more winnable game, and then it'll be Indiana and Michigan State. So winnable, yes, I guess, but I would probably guess Rutgers is a healthy underdog, something like 8.5 points, 10 points. Rutgers was a 20-point underdog today in Iowa City, and they covered comfortably. Raj says the team is getting better. He mentions they were 20-point dogs. There you go. It's an improvement. I mean, yes, they're getting better, but when you're a 20-point underdog, it kind of shows from where they're digging out of, right? So they're getting better, yes. How much worse could they possibly have gotten? That's kind of the question you have to ask yourself when you're making that evaluation. Cali Blue says still not great basketball, but it's getting better. Yes, I would agree there. It's getting better. Again, what I would say to you is, when you're coming off the Central Connecticut State loss, the Penn near loss, the blowouts to Purdue and Michigan, the bar was on the floor, right? So clearly they're getting better. They're showing clear improvement. They almost beat a middle of the pack Big Ten team here in Iowa, and they beat 2 bottom feeders in Northwestern and Oregon. Would they have done that a month ago? I'm not sure about that. So I agree. It's they are making strides. Is Balo a write-off for the season? Where's the player we thought we got? Balo played 3 minutes tonight, and I think clearly the player he's been over the last month is the player he is, and not the player he was maybe prognosticated to be by those within the program and us. I mean, clearly I'm not going to excuse us in the media from being not pumping him up a bit much, but I will say I am surprised at how little of an impact he's had. I thought his his court vision, and I thought his style of play would, overcome his physical difficulties. But I just think the game is moving a little fast for him from what I've seen, and he can't keep up defensively. And I just think his offensive skill set has not made up for that. He's not a particularly great shooter, and he's not really able to use any craftiness that I thought he would to be able to create offensively to overcompensate for lack of athleticism. So maybe he's again, you can never predict a multi-year project these days. I think he's a guy that maybe you keep around, develop for a couple of years. But again, I would trust this staff and this program to develop a defensive player infinitely more than I would an offensive player. So I'll leave it at that. Ryan Forbes says Balo and Byfall have not been given a fair crack. I disagree. I think watching 5 minutes of Byfall at any context in this season will kind of show how far behind he is with Bryce Dortch and Emmanuel Bole, which again, being behind Emmanuel Bole it kind of says a lot considering what we were saying about Emmanuel Bole last year. I think Byfall has gotten a fair shake. And Balo, one could argue, maybe deserves a little bit more than 3 minutes. He's had multiple 4-minute stretches in games this year. I'm actually curious to look at his game log now. So he's played so Iowa, 3 minutes. Wisconsin, DNP. Northwestern, 3 minutes. Illinois, 3 minutes. Oregon, DNP. Ohio State, 9 minutes. And then Seton Hall, 3 minutes. Purdue, 4 minutes. And then he played 12 against Michigan, 14 Penn, and 11 Delaware State. I'm not quite sure what he's getting out of that. And I'm not quite sure what Rutgers is getting out of playing a guy for a 4-minute stint. Either the guy can come in and help you or he can't. And, if foul trouble is a thing and you have to throw in a body there to kind of fill in the gaps, that's one thing. But Rutgers is not facing that situation every time they're throwing him in for 3 minutes. So a bit of a I don't know if it's a conundrum, a bit of a mystery, I guess, but I do think he's clearly closer to a DNP guy than he is a 10-minute guy. Lino shot 2 of 3 at the rim. Your argument that he's not a good finisher is false. Did he shoot 2 of 3 at the rim? He finished 2 of 5, went 0 of 1 on threes. Listen, I think the season long, and now you're making me look up the season stats. The season long stats kind of prove my point here. A three shot sample size in one game is not exactly definitive. So in close twos, Lino Mark is 16 of 41. I'm assuming this includes today's game. Let me verify that. It does include today's game. 16 of 41, which is 39%. That's not very good on close twos. So Gamers for Life is hearing Ola Adams, Indiana safety coach, becoming the defensive coordinator at Rutgers on Thursday. If that happens, Gamers for Life gets credit. How is Lathan Somerville getting on at Washington? Not playing much. Washington added a really talented European freshman over the summer, and they added a mid-year enrollee at his position as well. So he's been kind of sandwiched. He has not played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, in the last 7 games. He has not played since December 19th against Seattle. So his role has been significantly minimalized. And when he was playing, he struggled, shot 41.7% on twos, 63% on free throws, did not rebound particularly well, and was 1 of 4 on threes. So not good, not well. And I think if he was here, he would have played, I mean, obviously more than that. He would have been their best center, I think, by far. Not defensively, but offensively. But I think the issue is more so the school he picked and not the decision to leave. I think there was clearly not a real meshing of personalities. I'm not sure this is the program for Somerville, and for multiple reasons. But I think it's inarguable that if he was still here, he would be playing more. No doubt about that. And it'll be interesting what happens when he comes to Piscataway in February. You know, will he play? How will he be received? I'm still looking forward to that, but the juice from that that I envisioned when the schedule came out in the summer has been significantly dried up. Right Science Fiction says it's just so hard to watch this team, so many mistakes and a lack of discipline. Chemistry seems off. Again, I think the chemistry thing is a bit overrated. I'm not really a psychoanalyst. I can't really. I saw nothing on the court that tells me that they have a chemistry problem. I think that they have an offensive philosophy problem, a offensive skill set problem, an emphasis on defense problem that leads to some offensive issues. I don't think it's chemistry and lack of talent also, right? I think that also plays into this. So I think chemistry is probably, chemistry is always a difficult thing to do when you add 7 freshmen and 3 transfers and have 2 returnees. So I'll give some credence to that, but I'm not quite sure that's the biggest problem on this team. It's not like this is an uber talented team that just can't get along on the court. I just think there are bigger issues at play. Ryan Forbes says that I might be a better shooter than Lino Mark. Him and I have the same amount of 3-point shots made. I think Lino Mark is an infinitely more talented basketball player than I am. I don't compare myself to any of these guys ever since I did the Geo Baker one-day training session and was humbled more than I could have ever believed. So, I appreciate that, Ryan. I think I'll leave the playing basketball to the to the professionals or the semi-professionals. Ryan Forbes, what a disaster transfer for Somerville. I mean, on the basketball court, maybe in his bank account, probably not. I think we all make decisions in life. And again, look, I think that on paper, what he agreed to when he's committed, in May, I don't know if he knew they would add a really talented European in the summer and then a mid-year enrollee. And I don't fault Washington for doing that, right? The coach and the staff, their goal should always be to make their team as good as possible and take every opportunity to get better. I think it's kind of come at the at the consequence of Somerville playing, I guess, is the way to put it. So it is what it is, right? We all make decisions, and it's hard. He didn't have the data back in April when he decided to transfer. And again, I just think that the more Rutgers got away from the 24-25 season, the better. Speaking of Somerville and him not playing much, has anyone left the program gotten better? Cam Spencer, Derek Simpson had a nice game yesterday. He's doing okay at St. Joseph's, and he has a leading point guard role that I'm not sure he would have right now. Actually, he might start at Rutgers at point guard today. But I think if Rutgers reached the heights that they expected to be at this point as a program, that was expected when he left a couple years ago, I don't know if he would be playing as big a role here as he is now at St. Joseph's. Gavin Griffiths clearly got better. That's partly because he was unprepared freshman here and has developed in the couple years since and is in a better situation at Temple. Cliff did well at Alabama, certainly from a team results, and had some really good numbers as a rebounder and blocker. Found a role that really fit him and took advantage there. Antoine Woolfolk, as Alec points out, is the starting center of one of the best teams in the country, Miami of Ohio, that pulled out a big win in overtime against Kent State. So yeah, I think there are guys that left the program and got better. Jalen Miller, who couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in Piscataway, and was 90% of a defensive player. He shot like 40% on threes at Oral Roberts last year. Some of that is just maturity. Some of that is just guys getting better. Some of it is situation. Some of it is better coaching. There's a lot of factors there, and there are players that have left the program and not done better. But there's certainly guys who have left and have done better. Well, we got a little bit off track there. I didn't anticipate talking about Rutgers transfers at 11-11. After one of the better performances Rutgers had this season, but all good. We're 26 minutes into this live. Does anybody have any more questions about Iowa? Comments, thoughts on where the team is right now? I've kind of gone through everything I wanted to go through. Kristen Mooley, I didn't talk about, had a brief cameo, 11 minutes, got to the free throw line one time. Just not sure he's quite there yet offensively to contribute. Just doesn't seem like, he had a shot clock violation that, in fairness to him, was not entirely his fault, but some lack of awareness there. And I'm just not sure how much he adds on that end of the court. Harun Zerno, 0 points on 0 of 2 shooting, 2 airball threes. He must, if he's not top, number one in the country, he's got to be top 10 in the country in airball threes. It feels like it happens a lot. And the inconsistency continues there. Big game, a big second half against Wisconsin, unable to reproduce that here. That's the lack of consistency and the lack of showing up in a moment where Rutgers needs baskets and needs scoring, right? Again, a lot of his big breakout games have been in the second halves of blowouts when the pressure really isn't there and the necessity isn't really there. Rutgers needed him in a game like this, and I think Rutgers is still seeking to get that consistency and that performance from him. Bryce Storch played 13 minutes. This is much more of a physical game than a finesse game, so that makes sense why Oboli played 27 minutes and he played 13. He had 1 rebound and 1 turnover in 13 minutes. Fine performance. This wasn't really the game for him. JaMychal Davis, 0 points, 0 of 4 shooting, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, a block and steal. Again, it's hard for Rutgers or for any team to produce offensively when your starting point guard is just not able to create offensively. He's not able to create any pressure, rim pressure. He's not really able to penetrate with his dribble. He can't really create a shot for himself. He's a good spot up 3-point shooter, at least this season. The numbers bear that out. But I just think he's shown some limitations offensively that have continued from his first 2 years in college. And that hurts Rutgers offensively, certainly. And then defensively, again, 1 steal on a block, pretty good. But he held his own and played a part in Rutgers having a decent defensive showing. What did Iowa score per possession? Iowa scored 1.9 points, 1.09 points per possession, 1.1 points per possession. That's actually pretty good for Iowa. So maybe I should not be gassing up the Rutgers defense as much as I am. All right, let's see. What else? Frank asked about Pico's press conference. None of the local media travel, and unless the Iowa media really wanted to hear from Steve Pico, it's kind of the same deal we have, here at Rutgers. Dana Altman didn't talk after the Oregon game. It's kind of depending on what the home media wants to do. Typically, Steve Pico doesn't talk on the road, at least in a press conference setting, unless one of us is there. And he did do his post-game radio interview as usual. I listened to it before coming on here. Nothing really stood out to me. outside of what you would expect. Mentioning the turnovers, mentioning, being encouraged about, the game being close, but you got to win games like this, and the turnovers killed them. So, yeah, I wouldn't. So for me personally, just so people are curious, the only game I'm traveling to this year is Maryland. It's a drivable game, obviously. So that game, and I believe Jerry Carino, he's traveled to Maryland every time they play there as well. So they'll have a press conference there, but I wouldn't expect a Steve Pikiell press conference on the road, the rest of the season. Right Science Fiction says, at times the Rutgers D looks really intense and seemed to rattle Iowa. I agreed. I thought there were stretches in the second half where it was really impressive, and they were suffocating Iowa when they tried to penetrate and get into the paint. They were moving around. They showed a lot of that. They've had stretches this season where they looked really good defensively. And I think Steve Pikiell is really trying to channel as much and squeeze as much as he possibly can out on that end. And there are encouraging signs on that end. And I think given the offensive numbers, given what we've seen offensively from Rutgers this year, this is another example. I think this has kind of been the case throughout the Steve Pikiell tenure, but certainly this season more than most. This team needs elite defense to win games. They need to play 5 times better defensively than offensively. It's certainly possible they have one of these breakout games where they shoot lights out from 3 and they blow out their opponent that way. Every team seems to have one of those games every year, but for the most part, this team is going to win games by defending and causing havoc, forcing turnovers, and then on the other end, taking care of the ball, minimizing, self-inflicted wounds, and hitting shots when they need to. But yeah, I guess from that end, it is encouraging to see that. I thought Emmanuel Boye had one of his better games of the season. Certainly defensively was physical there. Only committed 2 fouls in 27 minutes. That's really good for him. Part of that, I would say part of that was the officiating being a little light, but again, they called 38 fouls between both teams. So Manny had a good game. Manny had a really good game, and if Rutgers can get that out of Manny every night, then they'd be much better off, and they'd have a serviceable center that they've lacked for since Cliff O'More left. So with that, I really have no other comments. I did not expect to go 32 minutes, to be honest with you. Let me sweep by the Discord really quick because I keep hearing things pinging. It doesn't look like anyone has any questions here. There's some spirited discussion on a Discord. I would encourage you all to join the Discord. If you don't have a link to it, it's in our Rutgers Rant Twitter bio. And if you can't find it there, shoot me an email. My email's all over the website, and I will send you the link. Some fun discussion there about this game, this team, Rutgers sports in general, which we will keep you guys updated on. Sorry we didn't do an episode this Monday. I forgot Steve was out of the office, and it was Martin Luther King Day. But we will do one eventually. We'll do one this week if Rutgers finally hires a defensive coordinator, and if not, we'll do one next week. I don't have an update for you guys on that, in case you were wondering. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for participating. Thanks for commenting. Please obviously. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe so you can get a notification whenever we go live. And we will, if nothing happens between right now and Friday night, we will see you live from Jersey Mike's Arena after Rutgers faces Indiana. Until then, guys, have a good night and enjoy the rest of your week.